Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Art Burns, and I'm really excited to be here with you today, as I am every day, so that I can share some thoughts and some information, and most importantly, some practices that will enable you to build this very vital life skill of simply being present. Right? And in this presence, being accepting, being compassionate, and being curious. Because when we can do this, when we can live right here in this present moment where it is, what's happening, and we can accept what it is that's happening and arising in this present moment, and we can do so with a measure of compassion, inner compassion and outer compassion, and we can do so with a curiosity, right? That helps us to not judge things, right? When we can do these in this way, what happens is something is really amazing and very special. And what we're really doing is we're opening ourselves up to being happy. That's what it is, right? I mean, isn't that what we want in our lives? Isn't it just about being happy? And you can be happy. Actually, one of the most profound benefits that I've gotten out of this work, and the same work that I tell you about here is the work that I've done for myself over the last 5 years or so, maybe 7 years or so, that I've been really focused on mindfulness. And my practice has gone up and down. I'm going to tell a story about that in the next couple of episodes. My practice at times has been, way back when, there were times where my practice waned and my behavior and my ability to be happy was impacted by that. And what I have found is that when I'm really true to my practice and consistent with my practice for 5 years now, I am able to be happy in any given moment. And that doesn't mean that my life is without stressors. It doesn't mean that my life is without difficulty. My life has plenty of all of that. I mean, I have it all, just like you do. I mean, we all have things that are troubling. We all have things that bring us joy, but the happiness is something that exists within us. Okay, it's deep. It's a deep well. It's a sea of happiness that even when things that are disturbing come into our lives and into our consciousness and into our, daily, existence, well, we can handle these things in a way that does not disrupt that deep well of happiness that lies beneath it. And that's the most amazing thing, folks. And that's what I really am just so happy for all of you, because if you are doing these practices and doing this work, then you also are probably feeling this as well. You're probably getting to the point where you're feeling just happy. And happy for no reason at all. In fact, I just yesterday bought the domain name behappyfornoreason.com. Happyfornoreason.com was already taken, so instead of going with like the .co or the .org or whatever, I didn't want to be duplicitous with that, and so I just went and I said behappyfornoreason.com, and that's soon to be my website. I'm super excited about it, because really that is the essence of what we're talking about. In fact, I think I'm going to rename this podcast, Be Happy for No Reason, because that really is the key, right? That when we operate from a place of happiness, right? Just think of any time in your life that you've operated from a place of true happiness, right? Maybe when you were a little kid, or maybe, after your son or daughter was born, or maybe when things went really well at work and in some given time, maybe you got some great accolades or you got a good raise from your employer. Just any time in your life, try to recall a time in your life where you were truly happy. Doesn't matter why you were happy, but the fact that you were happy, what happens in that happiness, right? What happens is that we're in the flow of life when we are happy. We're able to take things in stride, and we're able to be, not only are we feeling stable and grounded in what's happening, but we also feel a very easy sort of flexibility if we need it, right? Like, we're not rigid and we're not chaotic. We're in the flow. And that happens when we're happy. And the reason it happens, and the reason why we're happy, even though there's no reason, is that it's really the absence of the emotions of things like anger and grief and shame and everything that arises from the emotion of fear, right? Which causes the stress response in our body, which causes us to think about all the negative things in our life, which creates an unhappiness, right? Because the fact of the matter is that happiness is your natural state. Right? When we come into this world, we come into this world smiling. I mean, sure, we cry when we need something, but that's only because we don't know how to communicate, right? But children are the happiest people on earth, right? Because they haven't learned yet how to be unhappy. And the same is true for compassion, right? Compassion is the natural state of the human mind and the human brain, in fact, right? We're wired for it. We're wired for empathy. We're wired to grieve with our fellow humans. We're wired to be part of this shared human experience. And when we're engaged in that thing which we're naturally wired to be, well, that's when we find things like balance and equanimity and the ability to be happy for no reason. And so I'm so excited for you because you're on your way. Truly, if you're doing the practices that I talk about, and I know it's been a while since I've given you the formal rundown of the practices, and if you want that, then I'm here for you. All you got to do is ask, and I'll help you learn these practices. And I could even help coach you through it, okay? I can help coach you week to week to week until you develop these practices as a second nature kind of thing, a true habitual skill, right? Which will enable you to be happy for no reason all the time. And so if you're doing the practices, you're on your way. And by listening to this podcast, daily and understanding the concepts that I'm putting out there, and it's all feeding into that same, goal, which is to be happy for no reason. I mean, of course, if there's a reason to be happy, that's great too. I mean, if somebody gives you a compliment or you get a raise at work or you had a great commute into work today for whatever reason, that's all wonderful. Right? But the fact of the matter is that we don't need those things to be happening in our lives just to be happy, right? We can be happy for no reason at all. And I'm really excited for you. I'm really excited for me. And I'm really excited for us, right? Because as you're listening to me right now, we have a connection, right? There's you, and then there's me, and then there's we. Right? And that's kind of what we've been talking about these last couple of days. And I want to keep going on that topic here and this concept of, the last couple of days we've talked about how we can impact others, right? How we, our energy, our the thing that is happening inside of our bodies is discernible and is evident to those around us, and it has an impact on those around us. And so today, though, right, I want to take that and I want to turn it around, and I want to talk about how others' energy and thoughts and emotions are going to impact us. Right? Because it works both ways, right? Like the last couple of days. And normally what we think of is like, okay, how am I affecting others, right? But we don't realize how much others are affecting us, right? But the fact of the matter is it's the very same concept that's happening, right? It's just which perspective you want to take. You want to take it from the inside out or from the outside in, but it's the same thing. Right, you might recall this morning I was on a call with my client James, and James, what up, buddy? I know you're listening at some point, probably not today because he's catching up on. I think he started from the very beginning of the podcast, so he's getting there though. He's getting closer, and so we talked today about mirror neurons, and mirror neurons are sort of the basis of this empathic resonance that we have, right? So as I don't know why I use this example all the time, but if you see somebody slam their thumb with a hammer, right, or slam their thumb in a door or something like that, right, you are going to feel that pain very briefly and in a way that you don't necessarily understand, right? It's not like your thumb's going to get swollen and black and blue and throbbing and stuff, but that initial pain point, you are going to feel that. And the reason you're going to feel that is something in our brains called mirror neurons, right? So neuron is just a fancy word for brain cell, right? That's all it is. And so the neurons that make up your brain, a portion of these neurons are called mirror neurons. Now, the way we came to understand mirror neurons is a fantastic story, right? It's a story from 1992 at the University of Parma in Italy, where they were doing a research project mapping out the pain and pleasure centers of a monkey's brain. What they did was they used very, very fine electrodes that were inserted into these monkeys' brains, and to the point where they were measuring, like, not quite individual brain cells, I don't think, but small clusters of brain cells, like very, very fine-tuned, right? Not just this overall mapping. They wanted to see exactly where in the brain that, if they watch a monkey eating a banana, what part of that monkey's brain is lighting up? When the monkey's with a female monkey or a monkey of the opposite sex, what part of the brain is lighting up then, right? So all these different, sensations that a monkey can feel in pleasure. I think they were doing pain too. But again, just mapping it out, that was their goal, right? And so this project was done in the middle of the summer. And it happened to be a very hot summer that year in 1992 in Italy. And apparently, as the story goes, and I've heard this story told by like 4 different researchers, right, who all tell the same story. And one of the things that all of them have in common is that the person who walked into the lab one day was eating an ice cream cone, right? Because again, it was a very hot summer. And so this researcher came walking into the lab with an ice cream cone. And at that moment that he walked in, or she walked in with an ice cream cone, the monkey behind the glass, who was wired up with all these electrodes, right, saw the person eating the ice cream cone, and the monkey's brain lit up in the same ways that they had seen the monkey's brain light up when the monkey was eating something it enjoyed. Okay, so in other words, as the monkey is sitting there, watching someone else enjoy something that looked really tasty, the monkey actually was feeling that sensation of eating on a neurological level, right, of the brain cell level. The monkey was actually experiencing the same pleasure that it would if it was eating it on its own, right? So of course this sent the researchers scattering for getting grants and doing research, because this was a big deal. This was the first time that they ever saw something like this, right? It had always been kind of intuitively assumed that something like this was going on, but right now they had some kind of physical evidence. And so from that moment on, there was a huge push to understand this better. And what happened is they came to the conclusion that, in fact, yes, we do have brain cells that actually mirror the experience that we see someone else having. Okay, and so they named these neurons mirror neurons, which is a very very good name for them, right? A very fitting name for them. And so the mirror neurons, right, are the basis of this empathic resonance, right? So that's why when you see somebody, or let's take it on the positive side, and this was something that I called to mind with my buddy James this morning, is that every summer, right, you see, like, Coors Light will run the same commercials every year because they work so well, right? The commercials start with, showing you, just people sweating, and they show like a shot of the sun with the heat waves, like blurring it, right? And they steam coming and just, they just, create such a picture that you can just feel how hot these people are, right? Everybody's sweating. Everybody's like wiping the sweat off their brows. They look like they're in turmoil and distress from this heat, right? And then all of a sudden, what happens? This big train comes through, right? And the train is like made of frost and ice, and everybody all of a sudden has these cans of beer that are dripping ice off them, and they're drinking it, and you can see the relief on their faces, right? Well, that's what makes you say, gosh, I'm thirsty. I got to run down to 7-Eleven and get myself a 12-pack of Coors Light, right? That's why it works. And that's why they keep running that. I mean, that ad campaign has been running for probably 10 years. I mean, I assume it's still running, maybe even 20 years. I mean, it's been around for a long time because it works, right? Because as you're sitting there in your living room watching your television, you can feel what those people are feeling. I mean, of course, they're actors. They're not really feeling it, but they're acting as though they're feeling it. And that's what makes you feel that in your body, right? So you feel their thirst. You feel they're just dying from heat. And you can feel their relief when they finally get that cold can of beer in their hands, right? And so it's the same concept that that's the basis of the mirror neurons, or what's doing that. Okay. And that's why advertising works, basically. I mean, that's just one example. Basically, all advertising works on this concept, right? And so the idea then is that, if we are, responding to things on that level, right? The empathic response that we have, this empathic resonance, right? Because that's the resonance, right? Like what you feel, I feel too, because you're resonating that out to me. And in the last couple of days, what we talked about is how, we have that impact on others, and how to be, kind of aware of that impact that we have on others, and how helpful that can be to understand that when we walk into a room, we are impacting others, right? And because the reason that it's important to understand this is because sometimes we walk into the reason this is important is because sometimes we walk into a room full of people, a room that's filled with people who we really care about. Right? And we want to bring a positive energy to these people's lives and to these people's, experience, people like our children or our loved ones or our close friends, right? And so the concept of the work that we're doing here, right, is to kind of fine tune our body, right, to be free from the stress and the emotions that's going to kind of, broadcast this resonance that is negative, right? That's going to bring people down. That's going to be harmful to people in a way, right? Because when we can regulate ourselves, when we can manage this process of our emotions, right, and keep ourselves in an even keel kind of, baseline, calm place, then that's what we're going to resonate with people. We're going to resonate a sense of calm, a sense of assurance, right? And for all of you parents out there, this is very, very valuable for your children. Because if your children feel safe with you, then they are going to have a much better developmental, brain developmental experience than if they feel scared around you as a parent. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but many children are not living in a feeling of safety and connection to their children. They're afraid to their parents. They're afraid of their parents because their parents are stressed out so much. And the fact of the matter is that the kids, of course, depending on their age, but the younger kids for sure, feel as though it's their fault. Right? And so when they feel as though it's their fault, what happens then, right? They get stress on their own because they're afraid. And they're feeling shame, and they're feeling guilt, and they're feeling all kinds of stuff. So walking into a room, right, knowing what you're kind of broadcasting out to the people in that room is very, very valuable in this sense, right? And so today, though, I want to talk again about the other way, because you have mirror neurons too. It's not just the people out there, it's you as well. And so when you walk into a room, not only are you impacting those around you, but they are impacting you as well. And here's the thing, through the same practices that we're doing here, right? What we're essentially doing with these practices is we're regulating our emotions through awareness. Right? That you have to be aware of the emotions that you're having before you can regulate them. Okay? But when you do regulate them, right? When you do have an awareness of what is going on with you and the ability then to regulate that, right? Again, as we're talking about, not only does that help you, but it helps those around you. That's why every meditation I do and every meditation I teach anybody to do, it always includes a concept that I'm doing this practice for myself, but I'm also doing this practice for the benefit of those around me. And the reason this is important, the reason this awareness is important, is because when you encounter other people, And whether this is your own children, your own family, close friends, coworkers, random anonymous people out in the world, in Starbucks and on subways and the restaurant or the train, when you're experiencing people, right? If you have the sense of awareness that comes through the work that we're doing here, then you are going to recognize and be able to understand how those people's energy and their dysregulation or regulation is impacting you. Okay, and a lot of times we're not aware of that. If we're not paying attention, it's hard to be aware of it. Right? And now, of course, this is really important because some of these people, again, are your family, right? And this is very, very important to understand, right? It's very, very helpful to understand. Ram Dass has a very classic line where he says that if you believe that you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. Right? Because that's the thing, right? Those people closest to us are going to impact us even more. Right. But the knowledge that we can get, the understanding we can get about what is triggering us and how it's triggering us and why it's triggering us, right, gives us the ability to, again, regulate that. Right. So we don't have to be as subject and as futilely subjected to this energy of other people, which is oftentimes what happens. Right? Especially in the context of a family, right? If one person in a family is in a really crappy mood, then generally speaking, the rest of the family is going to feel that crappy mood too, right? Likewise, if one person in the family is abundantly happy and just lighthearted and ready to have a great time, well, then everybody in the house is likely to feel that as well, right? Because we do have this impact on each other. But the thing is that you have control over how that impact happens to you. As much as you have control over how you broadcast that energy, that empathic resonance out to others, you have control over how you receive that empathic resonance from others. And that, my friends, is the secret sauce, right? Because when we're constantly aware of what it is that's happening in us, then we are able to regulate it. Okay, again, that's really, really important to understand that the regulation happens as a result of the awareness. Most of the time when we're an untrained mind, people who are not trained in the work that we're doing here, right? They only notice their emotions and the reactivity of their emotions in the rearview mirror, right? It's a past tense thing. It's like, oh gosh, I was really angry before, and I really, I shouldn't have said all those things I said before, right? It's always in the past tense. So the beauty about what we're talking about here, because when it's in the past tense, right, that means that you've already done something. You've already made that impact on somebody, right? So maybe you slammed a door, maybe you spoke harshly to somebody, maybe you made a decision that is going to be a lasting decision that was based on this very temporary emotion. But now you have to live with the consequences of that action. And oftentimes, the consequences of that action, whatever that action was, or maybe it's several actions because, a mood can last for a long time, right? So everything you do from that place of agitation or every reactivity that you have, every reaction you have, to other people's agitation, right? It's going to have, again, consequences. And those consequences are going to cause more reactivity and more stress. Right? And so what happens is, when we can recognize this in the present moment, not after we've slammed the door or hung up the phone or snapped at somebody, but as it's happening, right? If we can monitor what's happening in our bodies as we're experiencing people, right? Like this one person that you work with, right? You never know, or maybe you didn't know before, but you realize every time you're with this person, you feel this agitation in your body, right? So the concept is that you're going to, like, let's say you have a conversation with somebody who causes this kind of reaction in you, right? So this person is highly stressed, maybe angry, maybe, whatever it is that they're going through, right? That empathic resonance is going to impact you, right? Now you turn around and you go into another meeting Well, guess what? You're bringing that into that next meeting, right? You're bringing that agitation, that hyper arousal into the next interaction you have, and possibly into several interactions you have. And so every time that happens, though, it's causing, there's a cause and effect there, right? There's every action has an equal reaction. Right. So if you cause, this agitation, if you're bringing this agitation into another experience, then you're going to get a reaction from that other experience, and that is going to cause more of this sort of, something needs to be resolved. And every time you're in this position of needing to resolve something, you're not really here. You're at least a portion of your attention is devoted to resolving this emotion that you're experiencing. So my advice to you, or my invitation to you today, is to pay attention to how you feel around the people in your life. Okay, really pay attention to the effect that people have on you, right? So in other words, right, like if you have a colleague, somebody who sits at the desk next to you, or maybe it's a teacher at your kid's school, or maybe it's a particular employee at a supermarket, right? Every time you experience this person, notice what you're feeling. And you can do this with every person that you experience, right? Just notice what it feels like inside of you as you're experiencing this person, because that, again, paying attention to it is the self-awareness. And once we're aware of it, once we're consciously understanding what's happening, now it's much, much easier to regulate it, right? So you can sense what this person's doing, as you're spending time with this person, sensing what's happening in your body. Are you feeling a little tightness in your chest? Are you feeling a little, pit in your stomach? Is your neck getting tense? Are your ears getting hot? What's happening, right? It's not something that other person's doing necessarily, right? It's impacting you on an internal level, right? And then of course the next step is, what is it about your past and your programming and stuff that creates this reaction based on what you're experiencing from them? And that gets into, we'll do that. That's like 2.0. So we'll get to that later on, right? But for now, first, what I invite you to do, as I said, is just to pay attention to how you feel in the presence of people in your life, right? And you might notice that some people make you feel really good. And you might notice that some people make you feel really not good, right? And it's not to judge, and it's not to say you can't spend time with these people, right? Because some of these people might be in your family, so it's not that easy to just, walk away from them, right? But maybe some of them you can. Maybe you realize that, okay, spending time with this person is not benefiting me. It's not bringing anything to me, right? Or you could also decide to be compassionate. And you could decide to when you are feeling this from someone else, like let's say that one person at the office is always making you feel this way, right? Well, maybe you could do something for that person to help them to feel better. Maybe just something as simple as eye contact and saying, hey, I just want you to know I really appreciate our friendship, or something like that. Or maybe it's, hey, I'm going down to the coffee machine. Can I get you something? Or would you like a candy bar from the vending machine, or something like that? Something to help that person to feel better. Because when you're around somebody who's making you feel agitated or unsettled or whatever it is, the reason that's happening is because they are unsettled. They are agitated. They are whatever it is. And so you then have the power, should you choose to exercise it, you have the power to help them not feel that way anymore, to do something to relieve their suffering. And that is what compassion is all about. And it will make you feel good to do that. It will make them feel good to do that. And it will also eliminate this resonance that's happening. Now, it's not going to be permanent. This person's likely to be the same way the next day, but you can always show some compassion towards them, right? Remember what I said yesterday, right? And again, this is kind of the same thing that we were talking about yesterday, right? That when we're feeling, the energy of a certain, what I said yesterday was that we never know what other people are going through. right? And so this is another sign that if they're making us feel something, then chances are they are going through something. And you always have the opportunity, always, you have the opportunity to be kind to that other person. And in that kindness, that is an act of generosity, which is going to benefit you, and it is also going to benefit that other person. So I hope you found this helpful today. I know we had a little glitch in the middle here because my video stopped. If anybody knows QuickTime out there and wants to help me figure this out, I would really appreciate it. For some reason, my QuickTime films just pause and just stop in the middle, and I can't record from that moment, so I have to record another one and then splice them together. So there will be a little bit of a weird jump, but I think I got it pretty good today. I'm very proud of myself at least being able to, splice it together now in editing as opposed to re-recording, because that gets time consuming. But if you have any tips for me there, be more than happy to hear them. But pardon me for the glitch in the middle at around the 25-minute mark there, the 15-minute mark, and I hope you enjoyed it. I really do, and I hope you find it beneficial. And I hope you're able to do this practice for the next few days and just see how it feels, right? And maybe forever. Maybe if it feels good, you keep doing it, because again, the idea is empowerment. Right? And the idea of regulation is empowerment. And to be able to regulate yourself and to regulate others, ooh, that's good stuff. That is good stuff on so many levels. So I hope you're able to try it, and I would love to hear how it works for you. And I would love to hear anything else you have to say about this podcast episode or any others. So if you have anything to say, or you have any questions, or you want to explore the idea of working together as a coach, in a coaching relationship, please just hit me up. You can go to my website. For now, it's artburnscoaching.com. Soon it's going to be behappyfornoreason.com, but for now it's artburnscoaching.com. Go there. At the bottom of every page, there's a banner that's got a clock on it. It says schedule a free call. Just click on the button. You'll go into my calendar program, pick a time that's available that works for you, put in your name, your email address, your phone number, and we're done. And you're done. And then it's from that point on, it's on me, and I will take care of everything else. You'll get an email from me introducing and everything like that. And it's a wonderful time. And so many people I've had these calls with, and most of them many of them anyway, don't wind up being clients necessarily, but they still get a huge benefit out of that call. So if you're interested, now's the time to do it. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I wish you well. I'll be back again tomorrow to talk about the same concept that we're talking about today, but instead of other people, we're going to talk about the media that we consume, as well as the food we consume, and how this has an impact on the same process, and how you can regulate that as well. All right, everybody. Have a great day. I wish you well. Bye-bye.